Hello, welcome back to Going Walkabout. Today I'm going to do something special. Next week I'm going on a trip. It's a road trip to Ireland and Northern Ireland. Just for a couple of days, but it's a great opportunity to test Going Walkabout out in the field. So, I've been very busy preparing the app. Okay, the first thing I did was importing some historical data. Now, if you remember well, back in episode 1, no, it actually was in the introduction, I explained that I built something that collected all kind of social media information into a single stream. Now, let's have a look at the computer and I'll show you what I mean. So here on the computer screen you see the trip I did back in 2015 to Berlin. It's very simple. It shows a nice list of all the events or all the activities I created during the trip. It's in reverse chronological order, so actually the last one is on top. But they are Foursquare check-ins, there are Instagram images, there's another Foursquare check-in, there are Flickr photos, etc, etc. And this shows you the whole list and everything that happened and the various pictures I took. I can go into particular post, I can zoom into the picture, or I can actually go into the post with the map in the background, and I did various things to make it look nicely, including here on top an option to see everything on the map. So I can zoom the map and I can go into the details, I can click on the map icon, I see the pictures that were taken over there, and this way I had a nice way to capture the whole trip. So what I did is I took this data and imported it to Going Walkabout because I wanted to show this also in the app and I wanted to make sure that it looks nice. Okay, got my phone again and now we're going to look at the app and how that looks like. So I'll start the app and I see my trips appearing and I see the Berlin trip that I imported. So go into the Berlin trip and then we actually see some of the same pictures as I just showed you. Now, this was actually going quite well, but I noticed that some posts didn't show and display correctly. Let me go and find one. It was usually when there were multiple pictures at the same time. Yeah, this is the post. So here you can see that the alignment of the display of the pictures is not correct. So for instance, this was the thing I needed to fix. And this way I've been quite busy with fixing these small kind of issues here. So let me go and get the updated version and I'll show you that it was fixed. Okay, I got an updated version of the app, so have a look at that. We start the app again and we need to scroll down to the place where we saw the mistakes. And there we go, just a little further down. Here it is. Now it is showing nicely. It was actually a very small little thing with rounding and therefore the size was a little bit too wide, so it showed on the next line, but that line wasn't visible, blah blah blah. But anyway, that was one of the things I had to do to make it a little bit nicer and better to work with. Another thing that I worked on, and you might remember the previous episode or the one before about the camera. Now if we create a post that used to be working here on that weather button, and I had a prototype of a new camera. Now that prototype has now become the live one, let's say the only one. The weather button doesn't work anymore, but it is now under the normal episode. Now you see I changed the color in black because I think for photos it's better to have a black background and I can scroll through the whole media gallery. But I can also go to the camera, and the camera I still have my various cropping functions, and I can still switch from camera. See, we can see myself and a little bit of the messy offers. And this way, this camera now has to do the job on the trip next week. And one final thing I changed, that was optimizing the data store. I was debating a little bit whether I should have separate root collection for the post or that it should be a sub collection, and in the end I created the sub collection. I'll show you, and we'll go and dive behind the computer and I'll show you a little bit about the data structure and I explain a little bit why I will do it. So here we see the data structure in the database. And let me explain a little bit more in detail. Just to explain it a little bit, we of course need users. And those users, they are very simple with a name and email and a URL of the profile image that we recently created. And we have trips. Now a trip, if I take this trip, is the trip to Germany you just saw. That has an end, it has some followers, we collected the recent data, that's what I also explained for showing it correctly. That's the main thing, and the user that owns the trip. But within the trip we have posts, and each post in its turn has, of course, me as a creation data, it has a media, in this case it's the one that was troublesome with a lot of images. It has a place so that we have a location. Because I imported it, I kept the original reference that I used for that. That is made in a time zone so that we can also display the time correctly. It belongs to a trip and the user. Initially, instead of that post collection within the trip, I used to have a trip post collection here. Now that had a few advantages, but it also had some disadvantages. The main disadvantage was that I needed additional indexes, so they consume space and they also delay updates, and it's from a performance perspective you prefer to have fewer indexes. And this one works well. Now one of the disadvantages is because you cannot query over subcollections yet, it is more difficult to make queries, for instance, get me all the posts of a particular user, especially when we have collaborators. But I'm pretty sure that Google will fix that in the next coming months, so I think it made it a lot cleaner and a lot easier for me to have a separate post collection. Now in this trip user collection, what was also giving me a little bit of troubles, because I needed a many-to-many relationship between trips and users. Because trips can have followers, but a user can be part of multiple trips, and you want to query it from both sides. So a subcollection in either the trips or in the users would not work, so I needed a root collection, or two subcollections that are kept in sync with a cloud function or anything weighted complex. Now what I did is a trip user, and I gave it a custom ID that consists of the trip ID and the user ID. So this way one user can only be linked to one trip. And that keeps it consistent, because you don't want to have multiple times the same relationship. And it also helps me because in my cloud functions I can parse out that ID and I can do permission checks to do that. So this way I optimize my data store a little bit to work with that. And that's it for today. So you saw I made some improvements. I did a lot of small other bug fixes as well, but at least the app is ready for the trip. I'm ready for the trip and I'm looking forward to it. So let's see how this is going to behave, and I will update you in the next video about how the trip was, but also how the app performed, and you will probably want to see what I did and how it looks like. One thing I also want to mention, I'm getting a little bit more work. So instead of doing 2 videos a week, I will probably go to 1 video a week. I will continue working on the app, and I will make at least 1 video a week, because it needs to show progress and we need to continue in it. And I'm quite excited about what is going to happen with it as well. So I really look forward of getting it finished and also getting it maybe even in the hands of others. I go on my trip. You enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.